In the heart of Midtown Manhattan stands a 59-story tower that millions walk past without a second glance. But for a few terrifying weeks in 1978, this building was the most dangerous structure in America, and almost nobody knew. This is the story of a fatal flaw, a secret army of welders, and a young woman whose math may have saved thousands of lives. The year is 1973. Citicorp wants a headquarters that will dominate the New York skyline. There's just one problem sitting on the corner of their lot: St. Peter's Lutheran Church. And it refuses to move unless a brand new church is built in its exact corner. For most developers, this would be a deal breaker. For engineer William Le Mesurier, it was a challenge. His solution was breathtaking. He would lift the entire tower into the sky on 4 massive stilts, each one 114 feet tall. But here's the genius and the danger. To cantilever over the church, the columns couldn't go on the corners. They had to be placed in the center of each wall. It was elegant. It was unprecedented. And it left the corners of a 59-story tower hanging in midair. Le Mesurier knew the building would sway in the wind, so he engineered a brilliant skeleton of giant chevron braces to absorb the force. He tested it for winds hitting the building straight on. It passed. But there was a kind of wind he hadn't fully accounted for. Quartering winds. Gusts that hit the building at a 45-degree angle, straight into those vulnerable corners. These winds didn't just push the tower, they twisted it. Le Mesurier's original design called for the critical joints to be welded, fused into a single unbreakable piece of steel. But welding is slow and expensive. Somewhere in the construction process, a decision was made to swap the welds for bolted connections. It was cheaper. It was faster. It was, by the standards of the day, considered acceptable. Le Mesurier didn't object. At the time, he had no reason to. He didn't yet realize that those bolts had quietly turned his masterpiece into a time bomb. In 1978, a Princeton undergraduate named Diane Hartley chose the Citicorp Center as the subject of her senior thesis. She wasn't trying to make history. She just wanted to understand how the impossible building worked, so she ran the numbers herself, and the numbers troubled her. Her analysis suggested the building was far more sensitive to those quartering winds than the official design seemed to assume. Hartley picked up the phone and called Le Mesurier's engineering office, asking for the wind load data. She got it. She kept calculating, and her questions about those diagonal winds rippled back through the firm, straight to the desk of William Le Mesurier himself. Le Mesurier sat down to prove the building was safe. Instead, he proved the opposite. When he recalculated for quartering winds, using the bolts instead of the welds, the truth was catastrophic. A storm capable of tearing the building down could hit the city about once every 16 years. The skyscraper could simply fall over. And for decades afterward, the legend of this discovery would erase her entirely, crediting only an anonymous student. But it was Diane Hartley who did the math. There was no time to waste, because something was coming. Hurricane Ella was churning up the Atlantic, racing toward the city. A public evacuation would cause mass panic. It could destroy Citicorp and ruin Le Mesurier forever. So they made a staggering decision. They would fix the building in secret, while thousands of people kept working inside it. By day, employees typed at their desks. By night, a secret crew of welders crept in. Every single night, they bolted 2-inch thick steel plates over the weak joints, fusing the skeleton back into one piece. They worked against 2 clocks: the sunrise, when the workers would return, and the hurricane, drawing closer by the hour. Behind the scenes, they quietly drafted evacuation plans for a 10-block radius. The Red Cross was put on standby. Then came an almost unbelievable stroke of luck. A massive newspaper strike had shut down the city's major papers. The story that could have triggered a citywide panic had no way to reach the public. And then, mercy. Hurricane Ella turned and slipped harmlessly back out into the ocean. The welders kept working, night after night, until every last joint was secure. The repairs held, the building was saved, and the public never knew how close they had come. For nearly 20 years, the secret stayed buried. The thousands who had walked beneath that tower never learned the danger they'd lived above. It wasn't until 1995 that a journalist finally cracked the story open and told the world the truth. Today, this case is taught in engineering schools across the planet. Not as a story of failure, but as the moment the profession confronted its own conscience. It forced a hard question every engineer now carries. When you discover your own mistake could kill people, what do? Le Mesurier didn't hide. He owned it. He fixed it. And in doing so, he reshaped the ethics of modern engineering. The tower still stands. Solid, silent, safe. A monument not just to brilliant design, but to the terrifying night the city never knew it nearly lost.